It's the Brian Lehrer Show. I'm Kusha Navidar, filling in for Brian today here on WNYC. Hey, how's your poop? Don't be uncomfortable. Everyone does it. And you know what helps? Eating fiber, but you're probably not getting enough of it. According to Harvard Medical School, American adults eat on average 10 to 15 grams of total fiber per day, while the USDA's recommended daily amount for adults up to age 50 is actually 25 grams for women and 38 grams for men. And that might help explain the new diet trend that's been filling up my feed, my TikTok feed, that is. It's a trend called Fibermaxxing. And I'm not saying protein maxing. That was 2016. Fibermaxxing is about getting as much fiber as you can in your diet, and the trend is going mainstream. And listeners, this really hits home for me. As a younger guy, I have friends diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or who passed away from colon cancer. I myself have Crohn's disease. A lot of younger people are starting to focus on fiber. But how much focus is enough, and how much is too much, and are we missing anything else? To help us digest the fibermaxing trend, I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Trisha Pasricha, a gastroenterologist, the author of the Ask a Doctor column for the Washington Post, and the author of the new book, You've Been Pooping All Wrong: How to Make Your Bowel Movements a Joy. Dr. Pasricha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And listeners, are you on the fibermaxing trend? Why? Or maybe you don't adhere to any trends, but you still have a favorite source of fiber. If so, what is it? Give us a call or send us a text. We're at 212-433-WNYC. That's 212-433-9692. Dr. Pasricha, this is a serious, important subject, but, fun is fun and good. We just want to let you know, we got a text that says, I'm pooping right now. So people are ready. I want to ask you, when's the first time you saw fibermaxing as a trend, and why do you think it's becoming a bigger thing among young people?
Yeah, I probably saw it a couple of months ago also on my social media feed, and I became immediately obsessed. And I don't say that about a lot of social media trends. I don't say it lightly. I don't say it often. But fibermaxing is so important and exciting that we're making fiber cool again, right? Because, protein maxing, that was so last year.
Right.
And as a gastroenterologist, I think about fiber all the time. And, just to take a step back, I think when I talk about fiber to my patients, people think fiber is just a gut health thing, right? But actually, the reason we eat fiber and the reason we should eat more fiber than we all are is not because it's feeding us. The whole point of fiber is to feed the microbes living in our microbiome. We cannot digest fiber. You eat fiber to feed those microbes, which then in turn produce these beneficial anti-inflammatory compounds that are not just great for your gut, but they're linked to better brain health, to better heart health, to lower risk of, as you said, type 2 diabetes. So this is a whole health problem, and we shouldn't think about it just as a gut health issue. This is really something that all of us would benefit from.
You start one section of your book talking about how, and I love this line, fiber has the best PR. But you say there are other critical foods that catalyze reactions in our guts, since you just brought that up about the biome, and those critical foods don't get the same media attention. What are we missing?
Yeah, I am obsessed with fiber, probably more than the average bear because I'm a gastroenterologist. But I do think that, if you go to any cookbook about plant-based eating or healthy eating, people talk a lot about fiber, and for good reason. But I will say there are other kinds of foods that impact our gut that we're not talking about as much. And for example, one thing I talk about in my book is spicy foods. Mm-hmm. We don't, spicy foods, as we all know, because we live this experience, they have a really important impact on our gut. If you've ever eaten hot chicken in Nashville, which is where I went to med school, you will know that if not that same day, certainly by the next morning, you're going to have fiery diarrhea for a reason. And spicy foods, the capsaicin in those foods actually can be beneficial to your gut, even though it's like, wait a minute, but this is speeding things up. It's giving me fiery diarrhea. Nobody loves that.
No,
experience.
They
don't. But it can actually help improve pain signaling because the capsaicin acts on the same receptors in your gut that are responsible for pain signaling, as well as this perception of heat. And so there's a lot of different types of foods that I feel like we don't think as much about, and different micronutrients. But ultimately, when the fibermaxing trend came on board, I was completely here for it because I don't think enough people are bringing fiber into their diet. It can be really hard, especially in this age where 60 to 80% of our food intake is coming from ultra processed foods, which is notoriously low in fiber.
Yeah, I like full disclosure, I like, especially as somebody with Crohn's disease, like fibermaxing is a thing that I've been paying a lot of attention to. And
Love it.
Yeah, I'm really, this is part of the reason why I was so excited for this segment. But I want to look at the maxing part of that because like everything seems to be maxing today, like protein maxing, looks maxing. Obviously, things can be taken too far. Does it worry you that fibermaxing might be part of that?
Well, I don't think that you can ever overdo your fiber, but you can increase the amount of fiber you're taking incorrectly in a way that's going to make you feel ill. And so I've actually seen that happen numerous times where people will be like, I saw fiber maxing. So, the next day I went out, I bought a fiber supplement, I ate a bunch of Brussels sprouts, cruciferous vegetables, kale salads, and I felt horrible.
Yeah.
So I gave, like within 24 hours, I was like, this is not the right trend for me. Let me give up. Okay. So I never want that to happen to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest mistake you can make with fiber maxing is going from 0 to 100 in a short period of time. And again, the reason why this is not so great for you is because what fiber is doing, it is feeding different kinds of species of microbes in your gut. Well, you have to give your microbiome time to adjust to this change. And there are some studies that show that these microbes, some changes can occur within a couple of days, but for the most part, it's going to take weeks, like on the order of 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
So I don't tell people when you're fiber maxing, suddenly if you're eating 10 grams of fiber a day, jump up to 30 the next day. I think you're going to feel bloated and ill and gassy if you do that.
So it's not so much about the worry of the fiber itself, it's the process of ramping up your body to accept the fiber is what I'm hearing. But like fiber maxing sounds a little bit different than these other trends. I'll let you say that if it's like this is good like more fiber is good fiber. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, again, it's not something that you're not absorbing fiber. You're not digesting it. Like protein, you are breaking down and absorbing. Ultra processed foods, you're breaking down and absorbing. Fiber, the whole goal and point is that you don't digest it. So the worst case scenario of fiber maxing is you go too hard, too fast. Yeah. You feel bloated and gassy, and that's not going to kill you, but it is going to be really uncomfortable.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, interrupt you. Please go ahead.
And I was going to, the other possibility is that you eat so much fiber that you start pooping and you end up saying like, wait a minute, do I have diarrhea because your stool is just so soft? And then I would say, okay, maybe peel back a little bit. But it is in truth, I mean, I see this in my clinic all the time. When people start meeting their fiber goals, they end up going 2 or 3 times a day, and that actually just can be normal.
Right. I was going to say, you said going too hard, too fast, because if you do, it might get too hard, too fast. I'm sorry, listeners. We got to have fun about our health as much. We have a question here for you. It says to the fiber doctor, I know fiber is very important and most of us don't get enough, but I've heard it can impede the absorption of some nutrients. Can the doctor talk in detail about how much of a concern that ought to be and with what nutrients it's relevant? Thank you. Very interesting question. What do you think, doctor?
Yeah, it depends a little bit. So, like if you're meeting your fiber goals through your diet, I wouldn't worry too much about this. And so any kind of fruit or vegetable that you're going to encounter in the wild in the grocery store, it's going to have a mix of different kinds of fibers, meaning different soluble fibers, different insoluble fibers in some ratio. And that won't interfere with any kind of medications or other micronutrients in the foods that you're eating. Some fiber supplements, though, there is a little bit of concern that you may want to consider spacing them out from like other medications you're eating, not other foods you're eating. And I'm talking about soluble fiber supplements, which are actually the kind that I take myself. I Fibermax so hard, but I take a soluble fiber supplement even when I know I'm going to meet my dietary fiber intake goals, just because I want that extra fiber in my life.
Yeah. Is it psyllium husk? Is that what you take?
Yes. How did you know?
I mean, come on, everyone with Fibermaxxing knows about psyllium husk.
Yeah, once you know, you know.
Once you know, you know.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I've made this mistake before. Psyllium is spelled with a P. P-S. Yes. It's psychology, so it's not selenium or something like that. But yeah, psyllium husk is great because it's a soluble fiber, and soluble means that it's going to dissolve in water and it's going to turn into a gel. And that's where this concern about, okay, does this gel somehow maybe absorb other medicines that you've been taking or interfere with that. And the data on whether it does that is actually pretty weak. So you can always run it by your doctor, but I wouldn't worry about, is this going to somehow interfere with the absorption of other foods? All it's going to do is slow things down to some extent. That's actually a good thing. It gives you more time to digest, and you get some benefit from the soluble fiber, both in terms of whether you have constipation, because it kind of loosens things up, but soluble fiber also helps if things are too loose, because it can kind of bind those looser pieces together in that gel. So it's a shapeshifter, and it's a really wonderful, gentle, easy to take fiber.
And I'm so happy that you brought up psyllium husk, doctor, because I was going to go to a caller, which we're going to skip for now, but Maurice, just want to give you a call out in Clifton, New Jersey, that you asked what's the difference between psyllium husks and fiber. I would still like to go to Edward in Manhattan if we could, though. Edward, hi, welcome to the show.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Yes. About a year and a half ago, I was told by my doctor that I needed to have a stent implanted in my heart. I'm 66, which they did. And I had to drag my LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol, way down. It was up at like 100. And that I should go on a very low saturated fat diet. I've practically eliminated it. And eat mass quantities of fiber. So every day I have oatmeal in the morning with tons of fruit. And every afternoon I have a big tablespoon of psyllium fiber husk in cold water, which is I'm now completely used to. And of course, aside from bringing my LDL cholesterol down from about 100 to about 39, I've also been able, it's just made my regularity very regular.
Edward, that's
terrific.
Wonderful. And then I think you had a question about kimchi, right? Oh, sorry.
I have a question. And my question is this. They told me that eating the fiber, along with reducing saturated fat, would reduce LDL cholesterol. And I've never quite understood how that works. Why does fiber absorb saturated fat from your blood, or why does it help to bring your LDL cholesterol down?
Wonderful. Thank you for calling, Edward. Doctor, go ahead.
Okay, I love this question. And first of all, I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is, I think, one of the lesser known benefits of psyllium husk in particular. The cardiologists were all over psyllium well before the gastroenterologists like myself were. And here's why. So psyllium reduces cholesterol levels. It actually reduces LDL cholesterol, ApoB, which is this other marker that can kind of help determine your heart disease risk. And the reason it does that is because, remember, psyllium as a soluble fiber, it turns into a gel. And when it does that, it traps bile acids that are just moving along through your small intestine. And when it does that, your liver is forced to use up the cholesterol in your bloodstream to produce more bile acids, because you're trapping them and you need those bile acids to digest. And so it uses the cholesterol in your bloodstream to do that, thereby effectively lowering the amount of cholesterol remaining in your blood.
So there is this other question that I think a lot of people are probably wondering right now. The text just reads, how many times a day should I poop? What do you think about that?
A classic question. I don't think a week goes by that I don't get this question in my clinic. And everybody right now is thinking it's got to be one, right? One is the holy number. It's not. You can go anywhere from up to 3 times a day to once every 3 days. And that would be within the range of normal as determined by your fellow Americans in this large analysis they did of people who consider themselves normal in America. So it's a big range. And for me, I actually don't really ever worry too much about the number. I just want people to poop however many times a day is comfortable, effortless, and doesn't disrupt your social life. For some people, every other day is fine. For someone else, 3 times a day is fine. It really depends on you, and it's going to be determined, by how much fiber you're eating, how stressed you are you traveling, how much are you exercising? All of these things are going to shift that day to day, if not week to week, month to month.
This has been such a great conversation for me. Listeners, I see all of the texts coming through. They're all great. And maybe we should do a Fiber Friday segment. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. But we'll have to leave it there. My guest has been Dr. Tricia Pesricha, a gastroenterologist, the author of the Ask a Doctor column for the Washington Post. The new book you've got is You've Been Pooping All Wrong, How to Make Your Bowel Movements a Joy. Thanks, doctor.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, that's it for today. I'm Kusha Navidar, and this is The Brian Lehrer Show. Hey, stick around, listen to all of it, and we will see you here on Monday. Be well.